Hello and welcome. This is a solo game put out by Battlefront Flames of War while we are in this quarantine era. This is just using the basic set of Hit the Beach starter set. Although while I did buy the starter set, I already had my own models for it, so these guys are already fully painted and they've all been blooded in previous battles, so to speak. So this is American Scenario 1 called Rescue. Your paratroopers have been cut off, okay, by a German counterattack. You must rescue them before they are overrun. So we have here one Panzer Grenadier platoon. They're armed with Panzerfausts. The company commander and his 2 IC is here. Okay, everybody here starts out in foxholes or dugouts or whatever you want to call them. Then I do have my tank hunter platoon, my 75mm tank hunter platoon. I know there are those who use the centimeter, but I grew up saying 75mm, so it's there. Okay, so on this side here, this is the second Panzer Grenadier platoon, where I have 2 Panzer Shreks. I do have the platoon commander. Now these guys are also armed with Panzerfaust, so it's not like the American tanks can just run them over willy-nilly. Doesn't work that way. Okay, down here I have my paratroop platoon. I have a couple of guys in here, and the other guys are in foxholes, dugouts. And I got a mortar here so we can rain down some explosions over there as necessary, which would probably irritate the Germans, but that's precisely the idea. Okay, so what else do we have here? Well, if I tilt the camera up a little bit, you'll notice that the American player is not the AI this time. This is the German player that is the AI, and they have their thing. We have the American tanks deploying here. This is a basic Sherman company. We've got our HQ for our M4. This is the regular company. They're not veteran. Here, there's a platoon of M475s, the platoon commander with the open hatch, and then here is the M476 platoon, and this guy would be the platoon commander because he's got the American flag off to the side. Now, off over on that area here, okay, this is where the German Panzer IVs would be coming in. They would be coming somewhere along this side. Okay, so what are the objectives here? As the American player, you must hold the church, the ruins, and all 3 other buildings to win. So it's not enough for the Americans just to hold this. They got to hold that as well. So this is going to be an interesting fight. Now, part of the thing is what does the AI enemy do? Okay, so here these guys are going to hold their position around the farm. Okay, if the paratroopers attack them, they will shoot. Okay, the infantry will shoot at your paratroopers. They will counterattack if attacked. These guns are going after these Sherman tanks. And if they don't, if the Shermans move out of line of sight, they will move to get into line of sight. The second platoon over here, okay, it's going to be shooting at the paratroopers until you start a German turn, pinned down. Then they will fire on the move, then assault to clear the buildings. Oh, this is going to be nasty. Okay, they will repeat this until they are wiped out or succeed in taking the church. Okay, so yeah, so they got to go all the way to that end. This is going to be fun. Alrighty then, so much for the introduction, and yes, this is a holdover from the GW days. This is an actual GW measuring stick. I don't remember from which 40K game it was, but hey, memories. Alright, that's it. Going to give you guys one last look at the overall battlefield, and with that, I'm signing off. Here we are at the end of American Turn 1. No action from the paratroopers. This platoon, the HQ, they all succeeded in their blitz moves. They moved up. These 2 platoons fired on this gun. 2 hits, both saved. These 2 fired. over there. No hits. That's it. That was an exciting American turn 1. We are at the end of German turn 1. No movement except this AT gun moved out here to take shots at the HQ. Failed. This one had a sweet line of fire to this M476 platoon, hoping to go for the platoon commander. It was a mistake. It was this guy instead. Tank blew up. Oops. End of German turn 1. End of American turn 2. So, got a little bit more action. No movement except the HQ decided to pull back to here. They try to fire on the Panzer Grenadiers, but these guys are gone to ground. It's next to impossible to hit. Okay, this Sherman tried to fire on that AT gun. Missed. Utterly missed. Okay, unbelievable. Meanwhile, the mortar here decided to give up its secrecy, landed right there, impacted everybody, ultimately took out the prize, which was the AT gun. So one AT asset is out, which is good. That's less tubes to go and impact these Shermans. And losing an M476 was already bad enough. Okay? Meanwhile, all these Shermans, these remaining 4 Shermans, fired on here. Whiff, jackpot. That AT gun is now out. As we now go to German turn 2. Okay, we just finished the German half of turn 2, the bottom of turn 2. These guys, despite the company commander present, never got out of the pin. So this guy fired and nothing happened. The Panzer IV reserves came in. They're here. And they started shooting, and they shot at, actually the AT gun shot him and got him good. The Panzer IVs shot at him and got him to bail out. So at this point right now, nothing else has happened. This M476 platoon is just one. It's going to engage in the last survivor test. Okay, but we still have one intact platoon here. And our HQ is still standing. Our paratrooper stand is still standing. That's it. American turn 3. Wow, what a turn. Platoon commander moved from here to here to get some shots at the PZ-4. These two stayed so they didn't have to pay the gyro stabilizer. They managed to hit, but it's like Tully Savalas said, it's like throwing tennis balls at them, and those are Panzer IVs. This second, the 2IC decided to move here, start firing, utterly missed. The paratroop mortar decided to go quiet to regain gone to ground. These guys are still pinned, so we'll see what happens for German turn 3. Okay. German turn 3. What action this has been. These guys unpinned themselves. The AT gun unpinned. These guys moved up. AT gun fired on the Sherman commander, bailing it out. These 3 fired on these 2 Shermans, bailing out 1. So at the moment, out of 5 existing American tanks on the battlefield, 1, 2, 3 are bailed out. Paratroopers are quiet. The Panzer Grenadiers are quiet. Nothing's happening right now. It's all AT assets are on the ground in hot engagement. All right, American turn 4 coming up. Okay, here we are at the end of American turn 4. These 2 were able to go back in. The American company commander is still going, no, I don't feel like it. Meantime, these guys brought their guns to bear, and they took out 1 here. Although they hit all 3, they only took out him. This guy fired on the AT gun, hit, but no effect. That's okay because the American mortar decided to plot it right there. And with this incredible Studley veteran skills, landed, and it didn't hurt anybody, but it gave him that special gift, the gift of pinning. So that's it for American turn 4. We are now coming to the German turn 4. Stay tuned, Battlefront fans. Okay. I've had to redo this video a couple of times. So, this is the end of turn 4 for the Germans. The Panzer Grenadier platoon has rallied. The AT gun did not rally, despite the reroll of the company commander. Nevertheless, they shot, and they took out the 2IC tank. Meanwhile, the Panzer IVs stood their ground, fired on here, just bailing this one out. So now we're going to go, because this Panzer Grenadier platoon didn't do anything. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we are going into turn 5. Okay, American turn 5. I'm going with that. This is my company commander. He is bailed out. He's not out of it. He's not, he doesn't take a unit last stand. Okay. And I'm assuming for the sake of argument that he's still a good unit. And then I've got these guys here that I got 2 out of 3, so we're still good. I had the commander move, and he moved, and they shot, and they took out a PZ-4 in the process. On the other end of the table, I had the American mortars go ahead and fire again in that general area. Since they already acquired it, that's just rolling for hits. They missed with absolutely everything because there's only one tube. They have to roll twice to hit. And it missed. But the benefit is that they get the special pin. Okay? Is that a pledge pin on your uniform? No. That's just a pin on a unit, and now we are going into German turn 5. Stay tuned. Okay, German turn 5. Wow. Bad things happened to the Germans. The AT gun not only failed to unpin, it also failed its last stand. Gone. The Panzer IV platoon failed its last stand. Gone. Wow, the last 2 major AT assets that the Germans had, it's now gone. These guys tried to fire on the Americans here. They hit the 2 guys in the building to no effect. They hit the mortar guys, no effect. Well, they did hit the mortar guys. The mortar guys failed to save, but then when it came down to bulletproof cover, that firepower, that totally, absolutely saved them. So that is it. We are now on American turn 6. This is huge. This is unbelievably huge now for the Americans because it's now really swung over to them. But they're going to have to recover. They've got to get those 2. They've got to get these 2 Shermans back in again. Now, keep in mind, when they talk about bail out, it doesn't mean that the crew physically bailed out. It could be. It can also mean that the tank was suppressed. Maybe the crew was fighting a fire. Maybe a track got whacked and they had to get out and fix it. But in any way, shape, or form, when you think about bailout, think about that it's out of action. It's not destroyed, but it's not in action either. It's in that limbo. And with that, we're going to stop here for turn 5, upcoming American turn 6. Stay tuned, Battlefront fans. Okay, we're at the end of American turn 6. The commander was able to get back in the tank. So now everybody is good. They proceed to move here, start machine gunning this Panzer Grenadier platoon, needing 6s to hit. They failed miserably. Meanwhile, the American paratrooper mortar fired again. Didn't need to about ranging in because that was from the last turn, and took out the Panzer Grenadier stand over here. Okay, that's about it. This is now the German half of turn 6. Okay, German half of turn 6. Panzer Grenadier platoon unpinned themselves, did a little bit of movement. The idea now is to bring in more guns onto the town here. We've got 2 stands in here. We got the mortar stand. So these 3 fired, and this guy should have fired as well, but I didn't take that into account. Oh well, such is war. There were 3 hits. No, everybody made their saves, and that's it. We're going to be heading to American turn 7. So here we are at the end of American turn 7. The Sherman tanks over here fired HE. They managed to hit, but they made their save. American mortar was able to find a new aim point, but caused no damage there. 2 American stands here, firing in there, hit 2 stands, but they made their saves. Yeah, I'm not going to keep this game going on forever. This may possibly be a draw, or it may possibly be a German victory. We will see. Alright, bottom half of turn 7. Panzer Grenadiers fired here on there, scoring 4 hits, which was amazing. These guys fired here, scoring 3 hits. So this platoon here is effectively pinned down. That's it. Now remember, for the Americans, they got to take over these 3 buildings here, which technically they hold, but they need to clear that out too. But remember, this is also a threat. While they have not been pinned down, they haven't been activated yet, but they can fire on the infantry in the town, and that does contribute to some problems. Tactical decisions, tactical decisions. What will be next? Alright, we just finished the American half of turn 8, the upper part of turn 8. These guys unpinned. They launched their mortars on there, didn't do any damage, but gave the special gift of being pinned to that Panzer Grenadier platoon. Meanwhile, these Shermans here decided to stand and deliver HE shells in here. They did score 2 hits, but the German stands saved. That was an exciting turn 8. When you come to a point in this part of the game, it's going to be, how many turns is this going to drag out? And I don't know. I don't know if it's really worth to go in there unless, you know, if it was like a tournament style game, then yeah, you've got to be more aggressive, which would probably mean you need to free up a few things here in order to be able to get this a little bit more fluid. Because right now the Germans could sit there and they're the ones who have to defend. They need to defend. They need to defend these 2 ruins here. Because the Americans have this, but the Americans need to take this and this. The Shermans here are thinking about taking this out because that cuts the pressure off of these guys, which would allow these guys to concentrate their fire on here. So, that being said, and you know what? I forgot. I got a couple of dice up here, so let's see. Do I want to do that? No, because I did declare the turnover, and I have to be honest with myself on this. Alright, stay tuned, Battlefront fans. German turn 8. And what a fight this has been for German turn 8. Do not count this game quite over yet. Germans managed to score while they unpinned themselves here, and they concentrated their fire here and here because they are the same platoon, resulting in 3 hits. Over here, this platoon fired, and they were able to score 3 hits here, here, and, well, this empty space here. The platoon commander, and you know what? The platoon commander, well, let's see. Was it a mistake? No, it was not a mistake. The platoon commander bought the farm. Ouch. So, that means the next turn for the Americans, they got to nominate a new platoon commander and get this fight going. So that's it for turn 8. We are now going to go to turn 9. Okay, top half of turn 9. Things are starting to get a little bit more bloody. So the American platoon replaced their fallen platoon leader with a new guy. The Shermans fired with the 75s, and they ended up hitting 3 guys. They all passed. These guys fired here, scoring 2 hits here and here. The funny part was the German dice, they rolled 1s each for their saves, and then of course was the firepower, and I rolled for the firepower, and oh my gosh, they just got blown away with that. So now these guys are not only pinned, but they're now free to jump the Americans in the village. Finally. Meanwhile, the mortar here still kept up its fire, hasn't hurt any stands, but has given the very special gift. The gift of being pinned down again, and it's a bailout marker, but it's a pin. It's a pin any way you want to look at it. So, man, this game ain't quite over yet. Not really, Battlefront fans. So, with that, we are going to come into the German half of turn 9. And more excitement coming in from the German side for the German part of turn 9. They got out of the pin. They laid down a steady stream of fire. They hit 3. 2 guys in here. The mortar. Nothing changed for them. These guys fired at the pinned rate against them. They hit twice. No effect. That's it. We're moving on to American turn 10. Here we are at the bottom of American turn 10. Things are changing. It's not as easily cut and dry. The Shermans decide to swing this way to start attacking this Panzer Grenadier platoon. They fired 50 caliber machine guns. They ended up just give a couple of hits, no damage. The mortar fired, didn't do anything. The guys up here fired, and they ended up taking out this one stand in the process. I'm sorry, it was the Sherman's 50 caliber fire that took out these guys here. Okay, so in the meantime, these 2 fire teams, or stands if you will, fired on here, scored 4 hits, 4 dice, 4 hits, so we're looking 5s and 6s. And the platoon commander buys the farm. I can't imagine, but the platoon commander, in fact, did buy the farm. So now the Panzer Grenadier platoon is leaderless. So some things are going to have to change rapidly. Okay, stay tuned. Okay, here we go for German turn 10. That was exciting, but nothing really changed. There was no movement on the part of the Germans. They got a new platoon leader, but they couldn't unpin themselves. So they shot here at these guys to no effect. This guy had a Panzerfaust, and the Sherman is nice and close by. He shot, he hit, and the Sherman rolled a 6 with his +6 armor. It was equal to the Panzerfaust, but it wasn't a bailout. The Germans rolled a 2 instead of a 3 on the firepower, so no effect. At this point, these Germans here are still pinned. They didn't get themselves out, and yeah, I did take that into account for that +1, because he had to roll as if he were pinned. He was roll as if he were moving. Okay, it's a slow-firing weapon, and these guys here, now they're free, because the next turn 11, if they rally, then they can go and move forward and attack the village. They can actually do that. So that's a constraint. All right, with that, we're moving on. Okay, so here we are at the end of American turn 11. The Shermans decide to come back here to work on this beleaguered platoon. By doing that, that takes the pressure off of the town, and it will allow the paratroopers to go forward with the Shermans. So in the process, they fired. Almost everybody got hit. The Panzerschreck stand bought the farm. So that's one less major threat to the American armor. Because right now, the command to CIC is fragile. There's only one left, okay? And he's not taking the last stand because he's heroic. These guys are still intact. Although in a turn, that can change very quickly. These guys fired. No effect. These guys fired here. No effect. The mortar fired, just kept the pin on them. And that's it for American turn 11. German turn 11. It's looking a little bit grim for Hans and Fritz. This Grenadier platoon still could not undo the pin. This Panzer Grenadier platoon still could not undo the pin. Now there has been an exchange of fire from the Germans onto the Americans. Some hits, no loss of stands. Okay, and same over here. They've tried to fire on this platoon here. The end result was no loss of stands. The paratrooper squad isn't even pinned at this point. American turn 12. These guys fired with their 50 calibers. Hit, but no effect. The paratroop platoon decided to fire again here. Hits, but no effect. The action, though, has been happening over here. Okay, where the mortar took out the stand here. These guys are not in good shape. They really are not. We'll have to count them up, see if they are up for a unit last stand test. All right, moving on to German 12. German turn 11. Not German 12 yet. German 11. Okay, for the bottom half of German turn 11. I know the German programming was go after these guys once you recovered from the pin, but these tanks were definitely the bigger threat. So they decided to get out of their trenches, bring their Panzerfausts. They managed to hit the platoon commander. They just bailed him out. Okay, so that's it. I'm afraid we're not having, well, maybe it is a Fury scene where, you know, our dude, yeah, took a Panzerfaust. I kind of had a problem with that for the movie. I can't imagine something like that happening in real life. Meantime, these guys here, they're pinned. 4 firepower against there. I'm just going to go ahead and roll while I'm here. They need 5s. I get 2 hits. I'll put 1 on the mortar. Well, no, actually, they're both going to go in here. And they roll for saves. 1 failed. Germans roll firepower. Failed miserably. So that is the end of German turn 11. We are going to the top of turn 12. Okay, we're done with the American half of turn 12. Game is not over. The Shermans opened up with their 50 calibers on here. Didn't do any damage. Paratroopers advanced forward. They took out 1 German stand. So, yeah, it's kind of winding down here with these guys. They're not quite at the last stand test. Mortar, while it didn't do any damage, still gave them the special gift of pinning. So we're going to the bottom half of German turn 12. Bottom half of German turn 12. These guys got a little bit too close. They fired, resulting in the loss of an American stand. So the paratroop platoon is getting turned off too. They're winding down with casualties. Except you still got 2 in that building there. Panzerschreck fired at the Sherman. That was not pinned. Missed. Panzer Grenadier platoon, they tried to entrench, they failed. These guys fired, they failed. We are now on American turn 13.